When I was in university, I used to look after a family's house during their annual vacations. Over the years, I had a few unsettling encounters, but one in particular made me quit for good. At the time, I was in my 20s and juggling multiple side gigs to make ends meet. House sitting was just one of them. That year, the family planned a 2-week trip overseas and wouldn't have any phone access. If something happened, I'd either have to contact the authorities or reach out to their extended family. It's important to note that although I'd experienced some eerie things in their house before, nothing was severe enough to stop me because the pay was generous. I worked part-time at an animal shelter, so I was comfortable around pets and familiar with cat behavior. The family owned 4 cats, all generally well-mannered. The first few days went by smoothly. I stayed in the guest room and attended classes nearby, saving money on parking and meals by returning to their home during the day. A few nights in, my girlfriend brought over dinner. He knew the house gave me the creeps sometimes and didn't like me staying there alone. We hung out in the guest room, ate and watched TV until he decided to leave. Occasionally she'd spend the night, but that evening he insisted on heading home. He had a nagging feeling he shouldn't stay. She tried to convince me to leave as well, saying something felt off. I brushed it aside. Going home wasn't appealing. My relationship with my parents was strained, and I saw house-sitting as a rare escape. With my sibling and closest confidant having moved out due to similar family tensions, home didn't feel like home anymore. I reassured her I'd be fine. I locked up after he left, double-checking the security system and reminding him that the neighborhood was safe. The cats were good company. Reluctantly, she left. That's when things began. I locked all the doors, set the alarm, and climbed into bed. The moment I got comfortable, the TV flickered on by itself. At first, I thought I'd sat on the remote, but it lay untouched on the nightstand. I switched the TV off, only for it to snap back on seconds later. The screen displayed static, a black and white flicker, as if no channel existed. I turned it off again, but it persisted, turning on repeatedly. Finally, I unplugged it. I tried convincing myself it was a wiring glitch from the recent renovations. Still, the incident left me uneasy. I relocated to the couch in the living room for the night. The next evening, my girlfriend returned. I recounted the TV incident, and she scolded me for not leaving the house. Despite the lingering fear, I stayed. Facing my family felt worse than dealing with a haunted house. We ordered food and settled down for a movie. To explain the layout, the house had 2 levels. The entrance opened into the living room, with stairs leading to a basement converted into a den and spare room. The basement stairs creaked loudly, something the renovations had oddly left untouched. The cats roamed freely but rarely sought attention, preferring to observe from a distance. That night, as the movie played, a chilling sound rose from the basement, faint but unmistakable. It sounded like a baby crying. My girlfriend went pale, locking eyes with me as if silently asking if I heard it too. I remembered from my shelter work that distressed cats sometimes make noises resembling infant cries. I counted the cats, 3. The youngest, a small 3-year-old, was missing. I assumed he was the source of the sound and descended the basement stairs, calling his name. In the spare room, I found him trapped. He had somehow closed the door behind him. I scooped him up and carried him upstairs, relieved. Later that evening, during dinner, the crying returned. This time it was louder, closer. I checked the kitchen for the cats, but none were there. My girlfriend, visibly shaken, suggested I check again. As I made my way down the stairs, the cries grew louder, sharper. I called out softly. Halfway down, the noise stopped abruptly. I searched the basement but found nothing. My heart raced as I hurried back up the stairs. When I stepped into the kitchen, I froze. My girlfriend stood there, surrounded by all 4 cats. They had emerged from the direction of the bedrooms, far from the basement, their wide eyes fixed on something I couldn't see. The eerie silence hung in the air, thick and suffocating. My girlfriend's face was pale, his hands trembling slightly as he gestured toward the cats, as if to say, "You see this too, right?" In stunned silence, I grabbed my things, stuffing them into my bag as quickly as possible. My heart pounded so loudly that I thought it might echo through the empty house. Every creak of the floorboards felt magnified, as if the house itself was watching us leave. We exchanged no words, our shared fear louder than any conversation. For the remainder of the family's vacation, I only returned to feed the cats and clean up. Each visit felt heavier than the last, as though the house resented my presence. I abandoned their feeding schedule, knowing full well the owners wouldn't approve. I didn't care. I moved quickly, avoiding eye contact with shadows that seemed to stretch unnaturally across the walls. On the final day, I locked up, left the keys where instructed, and politely declined any future house-sitting offers. Reflecting on each passing year, the experiences seemed to intensify, as if the house had been growing bolder. I should have quit earlier, but I had convinced myself the money was worth it. It wasn't. As I drove away, I called my sibling, recounting the experience in hushed, hurried tones. To my horror, they admitted they too had encountered strange occurrences in that house but kept silent to avoid discouraging me from saving money. Their voice cracked with regret, and for a moment I wondered how much they had endured without telling me. I never went back, and honestly, I don't think I ever could. Have you ever experienced something unexplainable? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales.